My name is Ray Shackleford,
And I'm Edidiong Obot.
and this is
Fresh Perspective.
This is our show where we talk about politics, civic participation, the community, and bringing us all together across the diaspora.
Yeah.
Today we're going to discuss the National Urban League, the state of Black America, and how you can get involved here in the city of Houston. So Diddy, you got exposed to the Urban League when? Because I want to say for both of us it was around the same time, I think.
It was 6 years ago, 2012, actually.
Okay.
So a good friend of mine, I saw her at, she invited me to the Young Professionals annual Christmas party that they do.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'll go. I want to check it out, being around some young Black professionals. And plus, I'm a young Black professional, and we get involved.
It just makes sense.
Right? So I went to the party, and she was just really selling me on this Urban League, and I was like, what is it? What do you guys do? Why don't you just come to a meeting? I said, you just can't tell me what it is? And she was like,
you got to experience.
She was like, no, just come to a meeting, So I went to the meeting, and that first meeting I believe that was January of 2012. I went to that first meeting, and I was pretty sold. I was like, wow, how come I never knew about the Urban League? I was born and raised here in Houston.
Right.
You would think that that's something I would know about, but to my surprise, like a lot of people didn't know what the Urban League is. And I went to college. I went to Texas Southern. I didn't know anything about it. But as the more I learned about it, the more I saw that it was something that's definitely a need in our community. And I get a chance to be a part of that. I get a chance to impact it and see the impact, not just volunteer here and there or just, donate my money. But I actually get a chance to see how my dollars that I contribute to the Urban League rolls out in programs that I'm actually either helping to lead, helping to volunteer for, or just even finding kind of partnerships where the Urban League and high schoolers or high school students can be a part of that.
Right.
So for me, it was like, I like that because I get a chance to see how dollars translates to programs, translates to impact. And then when you hear students talk about, oh, I love that program. I love Young Professionals University. Listen, I have my brother in there. I brought everybody I knew into the program. That's how involved I got into it. So that's kind of like my story. But I think yours is a little different than mine.
It
like
is.
You've been part of Urban League all my life.
Not all my life, but yeah. And I guess I got introduced to the young professional component, I should say, around the same time. That's what I was alluding to, because that was 2012. Actually 2010, but I got heavily involved 2012 to 2013. And so to your point, my introduction was probably around 14, 15 years old, because my mother actually used to work there in the health department under then CEO Sylvia K. Brooks. And she used to make me go to programs for the New Lights, which was the high school program for those kids. And I honestly don't even remember some of the activities we did. I know they talked to us about different issues in our community, what we needed to focus on, how we could better ourselves. And then I went off to college, and again, my mother would continue to pull me in, bring me to the office, introduce me to our co-workers. And I actually remember one of her co-workers, he was in the IT department at the time, and he was one of my Morehouse brothers. Well, ultimately, because I was at Morehouse, I hadn't graduated yet, so I wasn't officially a Morehouse man yet.
Okay.
But ultimately, he would become my Morehouse brother. And then when I came home, all I did was go to work, go out with my friends, and my mom was like, you need to do something else. You need to be more productive. And so I think it was spring of 2010, she paid my membership for me to join the Young Professionals. Actually, spring of 2009, she paid my membership. In fall of 2010, when I started going to graduate school, University of Houston, I actually started working at the Urban League in the housing department. And so, like you said, my story is a little bit different, having worked there, not just at the local level, but the national level as well, and ultimately going into leadership with the young professionals. So, very long story, positive story, but I think we need to go back a little bit and kind of set the stage so people understand what the Urban League is as a whole. So, the National Urban League was established in 1910. It's one of the oldest civil rights organizations, And initially it started out focusing on education, housing, and jobs. And now, fast forward to 2018, the organization is, 108 years old?
Yeah.
I think I did the math correct.
I think so.
Okay, that sounds right. And at this point, it still continues to serve African Americans as it was initially established to do primarily when you think about during that time period.
Right.
Obviously, pre-Voting Rights Act, still under Jim Crow, coming out of Reconstruction, different things like that. It was much needed.
Right.
And at this point, they focus more on the underserved populations, those who don't have a voice. It just so happens to be that in a lot of instances, it continues to be African Americans, but also now Latinos, other minority communities, even immigrant communities, people who don't necessarily have representation or the ability to get access to certain things. So making sure that they have that. And so you have the national organization, and under that, you have affiliates,
Right.
or the local nonprofits. So here in Houston, we have one,
Yep.
the Houston Area Urban League. You can check them out. That's HAUL.org. And they were established in 1968, so they're actually celebrating 50 years this year. That's major. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
And so even taking it a step further, under those nonprofits, and we have those in about 100 cities across the country, you have what's called the volunteer arms or the auxiliaries.
Right.
You have the young
Guild,
professionals
the young professionals.
and the guild. And so the young professionals ages 21 to 40, both you and I. And then you have the guild.
Where are you? You 21?
I'm not 21.
You're older than 21, but you ain't 40 yet.
I'm not.
Okay, not yet.
I've still got
Gotcha.
a little less than a decade.
Okay.
And then the guild is typically 40 and up. They've been trying to rebrand it, getting a younger demographic to come into the guild. We've always kind of labeled it as our seasoned saints, if you will.
Our seasoned saints.
Yes, you know, a little Tony Chachere's, you put that on there. But nonetheless, these are individuals who volunteer, give of their time. They're not being paid.
Right.
They help support the Urban League in their community through volunteerism, fundraising, and advocacy. And there's different initiatives they focus on that vary within the cities depending on the CEO.
Right.
And obviously the economy, different things going on at that place. Here in Houston, we cover a lot of ground. There's a housing department.
Yep.
They help people when it comes to first-time home buyers, educating you on the mitigation process. If you're in danger of losing your home,
Right.
you have the entrepreneurship program for people trying to start a business. They take them from the business plan process all the way up to how you get funding.
Right, and with that, they also have the Small Business University, where
Yes.
if you are a person who has an idea and you're trying to figure out how to get my business up, off the ground, the Urban League has literally a program. I forgot how long it is. I think it's probably like 6 weeks or so.
They've actually extended it. It's
okay.
almost like, might be like double that now, 12 weeks.
But it's a really good program because it helps, like what Ray said, establish your business plan, really kind of understand what's needed, capital costs. And at the end of the day, you get to present your own business plan to a panel from the Urban League, handpicked, some from the Urban League board, some from, other professions, and they get a chance to actually vet your own business plan. So it's pretty good, and it's affordable. I believe it's like somewhere between $20, $25 or something like that. But it's on their website, so you go to hall.org and look at that.
Yeah, and actually, since its inception, it's gotten to a point now where it's completely funded through people like Wells Fargo,
Right.
Different corporate partners. And so we don't like to say that it's free, but the cost is covered by the sponsors so that people in the community don't have to pay for it.
Right.
And so they have all these different programs, and these are things that people can take it. Within that, the reason I just came back from D.C., and you've actually gone on one of these trips before, was the State of Black America, the report being released, and also the Legislative Policy Conference.
Right.
And so I'm trying to think, what year was that we both went?
I think that was like
2015?
something like that.
I think it was
2015, yeah.
This was after Madiba, his term
First
ended.
of all, why did you call him Madiba?
Samson Babalola, past president.
Past president of
Houston Area Urban League Young Professionals, my predecessor. But
that's our nickname for him.
it is. Love that guy. I think that was the first time we went together. And the Legislative Policy Conference is basically where we all go to D.C. You have CEOs from across the country that are over different affiliates, young professionals, guild members, and we go to D.C. to talk to our representatives about things that are important to our communities, the communities that we serve, and advocate for those issues to make sure that our voice is being heard.
Right.
So
when we went, we spoke with Representative Sheila Jackson Lee.
yes, we did go to our Congresswoman.
Yeah, our Congresswoman. And who else did we talk to?
We talked to Senator Cornyn
Yeah.
and his staff, because here in Texas we have two senators,
Yeah.
Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz.
And then when I went, I really enjoyed it because, one, they got a chance to see young people in the room. So people always talk about how can we get in the room? We need to get in the room. So here's your chance through Urban League to get in the room with policymakers, decision makers. Two, our CEO, Judson Robinson III, was there as well, and other board members were there, and they got a chance to actually not only understand like the issues or the concerns that we have in our own community, but they seemed pretty, receptive about
Absolutely.
what we were giving to them and just kind of lobbying for, and just say, hey, this is what you need to focus your concerns on as it relates to the Houston area.
And I think that's important, and I want to talk about that more in addition to the state of Black America as soon as we get back from this break.
Welcome back to Fresh Perspective. Before we were giving you a little touch about what the National Urban League is, Ray and I both shared our experiences and how we got involved with the National Urban League, the kind of programs that they provide. And most recently, the National Urban League came out with their State of the Black America 2018 report. So we want to talk to you guys a little bit more about what that report looks like, what it entails, and things of that nature. Ray actually got a chance to go to the Legislative Policy Conference this year and was in attendance with the State of Black America Conference. And what were some things that you noticed that were like really significant at that conference?
So one thing that's changed, I guess, from years past is they actually do a live, I shouldn't say live, they do a in-studio TV recording of the State of Black America. And it's been hosted by TV1 and Roland Martin, who's actually from the Houston area. And this year, the focus was the digital divide. And that talked about how there's a lot of disparities when you look at our community and how it's represented within the tech space. So when you look at some of the major organizations like Facebook, Google, Yahoo, some of those, we have less than 5% of African Americans that are in those that are represented as far as those employees. And so when you look at how much our demographic actually uses technology, when you're talking about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google, all those different things, and how underrepresented we are when it comes to the workforce, it's a chasm. And it's something that we're trying to address. It was something that was heavily talked about. And even those individuals that are trying to break into the tech space. And so I know earlier today you and I kind of talked about some of the initiatives that are going on trying to make a positive change in that space when you're looking at Black girls who code.
Right, you have conferences like Afrotech. One thing I've noticed is that we've always known about like the Silicon Valley boom, right? That's where you go for tech. But right here in Texas, they're kind of having their own like tech boom in Austin.
Absolutely.
And me and Ray and I have a couple of friends that actually are part of that that initiative or have gone through that Austin tech experience, and they're building their own current apps too. I think one thing for me, at least my own opinion, is that a lot of us are not really as informed about the various careers or industries in the digital industry. I mean, like you said, there's Netflix, there's Amazon, there's Yahoo, there's Xfinity, there's all these different things that I don't think we really thought about, like a career in that. You know, when you say tech, I mean, nowadays it's like you have Uber, you have Lyft,
True.
you have ESPN streaming, you have
Airbnb.
yeah, Airbnb. Like, there's so much things, and like you said, our community, we use that digital market like heavily. We have Black Twitter, y'all. But a lot of us on Black Twitter are not in the industry, so we need to get ourselves in there.
And it's something that's an issue. And the report as a whole, the state of Black America, it looks at an equality index, and not just for African Americans, not just Latino Americans, Asian Americans, and the comparison is based on where those different ethnic or racial groups compare to Caucasians. And so, for example, African Americans, if you say Caucasians is the foundation or the comparison point, they're $1. African Americans are basically 72 cents on the dollar when you look at where we are from an equity standpoint across areas like civic participation. You look at economics, wealth, racial and social justice, looking at the tech space. So all of those different things are taken into consideration and put into this report. And it's something they've been producing on an annual basis for at least the last 15 years. President Mark Morial and his staff, Don Cravens at the National Urban League Washington Bureau. And so it's very comprehensive and something this year that was different, because the question is, okay, we always have these discussions about these are the issues.
Right.
How do we start to move them in a positive direction? How do we make a change?
Right.
And previously, with President Trump being elected, there's obviously a lot of concern because he has not shown himself to be